Got a JVC VCR in for service. The guy that owns this hauled it out to use it, and he said it rattles, so he didn't plug it in. So we're going to fix it. I'm going to tell you guys up front, this is a two-parter because the second fault developed while I was working on it. So let's get started. This is an old JVC VCR that was brought in from an old customer that I've worked on his equipment for the past 30 odd years. I've probably repaired this machine a couple times over the years, and he uses it from time to time to transfer some old tapes. Anyway, he said he went to use it and he picked it up to drag it out and hook it up, and it did this. Sounds like something's falling apart. So he did not plug it in. He brought it over to me to find out what's wrong. You remember the last video of the LG, and I said it would look great mounted on a wall? There it is. It's mounted on the wall. I'm going to use this as my test source. I've got my audio video cable connected up to it, and I'll be actually using it for testing this VCR for recording capabilities once it's up and running. And as promised, I put it up with the top off just because I think it looks cool to be able to see the thing spinning away there with the laser and everything. I think that looks kind of cool. It's out of the way. I thought it was a stupid design, but now that I look at it, it's actually not that bad a design. If someone were to hang that on their wall and fish the wires in behind, they'd have a pretty cool looking DVD player. Looks a lot better hanging up on the wall than it would sitting on the shelf, that's for sure. Anyway, that's the home for that. I've kept the top cover for it in case I ever want to put it back together, but I think for now, that DVD player is going to be sitting right where it is because it's out of the way and I can use it, and I'll just leave that disc in. That's my test disc of some scenery that I shot, so I'm just going to leave that disc on the machine, and whenever I need to use it, I can just start it up. Anyway, let's get back onto this VCR, rip it apart, and see what's rattling around inside it. I'll take a few screws out of the top and the sides here and open the machine up. And, okay, what's rattling? Oh, I can see right now, this guide is loose. There's where our problem is. This guide is coming apart. Oh, look at that, see that? This guide has come unattached. There's our problem. It's always nice when you get a machine that you can spot the problem. A common problem on these was they had like little brass retainer that goes on the bottom, and they had a tendency to pop apart and cause the guides to come undone. So had he tried to play a tape on this, it wouldn't have played. It would have likely just jammed because the guide wouldn't have been able to travel all the way up and lock into here. So it's a good thing he didn't plug it in, because it could have done more damage had it been trying to load and the angle post, for example, went into the drum. Well, it could have eaten the video heads. But so it's a good thing that when it was moved, he could hear something rattling around, and rather than try it like most people would just plug it in, it's making a noise, let's just try it out and see what's wrong with it. You don't know if something has fallen into it. You know, sometimes kids will put things in the front. Oh, this guy doesn't have any kids. His kids are all probably about my age now, or close to it. But again, it's always a good idea if something's not working, or if you hear anything that sounds like something's loose inside, take it apart and investigate first before you power it up. You can save yourself a lot of headaches. So I got to pull the bottom off this as well to see what's going on in the bottom, and we'll just have to use some super glue, I guess, to glue it back in place. And I'll just use super glue on this because there's no reason it ever needs to come apart. I want to make sure it stays together and doesn't fall apart again. So the bottom cover comes off. I got to find the piece that fell out of it too, because I could hear it rattling around. So somewhere, oh, there it is, right there. There's the piece that fell off, and that's what I mean. This little brass clip that holds the guide in place. This falls out on all these machines, or a lot of them. So we're going to put some glue on here and glue this back together. Before I do that, though, I have to manually move the mechanism up, because right now the guide is underneath the chassis here. so I can't get at the guide because it's under here. So I'm going to have to manually turn the motor forward, bring the guides up so that I can actually put it together. I'm going to use my power supply set down to about 3 volts just to advance the loading motor a bit, because I can access it right down here. And we'll turn this out a bit. Oh, gotta load the cassette basket first. Okay. More volts, 5 volts. And release the cartridge down, or carriage down. Okay, so I'm just going to run it a bit just to bring the guide forward and a controlled load, just so that I can get it in to a position where I can actually service it there. That should be good there. That way I can hold the guide in place and put the guide back together. So this is the, well, here's the one on the other side. This one's not loose either. Well, that pin feeling like it's loose too. The plastic pin here should be pushed back in. There, that gets pushed down. So that'll pop out too eventually if someone tries to load it. This is the pin. It just goes in like this. We're going to put some glue on here. I'm going to hold it in place and jam the pin back in, and that will hold this hopefully forever. But this one here, it looks like it's had this capacitor replaced on it before. That was quite common on here, and what everyone, including me, did was, because there was a piece of plastic that used to cover this, we just cut it out because it saved removing the drum. Otherwise you'd had to take the drum out to get to a little cap that goes bad on the bottom here. But that one has been replaced years ago, and for that matter I may have replaced it, because I'm sure that in the past I probably worked on this machine, because this guy I've known for 40 years and I used to work on all of his stuff for him back in the shop. Tons and tons of stuff over the years, so he keeps bringing me stuff every time it breaks. Of course he never wants to pay me anything for it, right? This will be like a repair that I might make 50 bucks on, but it's a piece of equipment that he wants to use, so I guess we'll fix it. And these actually weren't bad machines. They had common problems on them. They had mode switches that went bad, mode switches over here. Looks like at some point that's been cleaned, because it looks like those have been resoldered at some point. Looks like that's been resoldered as well, so I think the board's been taken out and the mode switch has been cleaned. Again, I may have done this years ago. I don't remember when, but I'm sure that I probably worked on this in the last 10 years. At least in the last 20 years for sure. So usually what I do is I hold the guide in place from the bottom, put a drop of glue right there, and then I'll take the post itself, grab it with a pair of pliers so I can place it in, and then in one motion just push it into place like that to set it. And now once the glue dries, which only takes a few seconds because this is super glue, crazy glue. For those of you outside of North America, this is the type of glue, if you can read what's on there. Ethyl 2-cyanocrylic glue. And it just stuck to my finger. Well, almost. I got some glue on my fingers here. This stuff will glue your skin together. I buy this stuff. It's the same. It's sold under the name of Crazy Glue and all kinds of different brands, but it's the same stuff. It's good. It's good. And I buy this stuff at the dollar store because like 4 tubes is like, I don't know, $1.25 or something. Used to be $1 with inflation. It's gone up to $1.25, but still 4 tubes of that for $1.25. And the nice thing about it is each tube is factory sealed, right? So when you first use it, it doesn't go bad. So once you open them up, you pretty much have to use them up within a few weeks by just screwing down the top to activate So I keep them in the tube upside down and the one right side up that I'm using, so I know which one I've cracked open. And I say that it works good. It's a good glue. This stuff here will be dry now, so now I can proceed to flip the unit over and power it up, and the mechanism should reset, and then we can test it. Bloody cat's howling at the door. I'll open the door up and see if he'll come in here and grace the camera. This is the cat that makes all the noise. If I put him on this VCR, he will probably break it. This cat is huge. But he likes to play. He thinks he's a dog. And he likes to play fetch. So now I got to go play fetch with him for a few minutes. Otherwise, he'll sit there and howl at the door. Okay, playtime is over. Power. That's what I like to see. Mechanism is now reset. I'll plug it into a source and to the TV, and we'll see whether it works, and we'll do a test recording on it as well. So the output on here is, it's got two sets of outputs on this one. So video out, audio out, and I'll plug the video in from the DVD player that's hanging on the wall for testing purposes, and we'll do a test recording and playback and see how it's working. First things first, I'll load a recorded tape, make sure that it press play. And it plays. So now we'll make a recording from the DVD player that's mounted on the wall. I think I can record on this tape. I should make sure first. I'm pretty sure I can probably record onto this tape. Yep. This tape's just got porn on it. Housewife porn. That interference and noise that you're seeing, incidentally, is just because of the plasma screen. If I put the cover on the machine, it will be fine. But I can record on here now, so I'm going to hit the record. So I'll record it at SP speed. Oh, also it looks like the display is quite dim on the front here. Yeah, it's working, but it's dim. Oh well, I don't think he's too worried about that. There we go. Obviously he doesn't use it for record. The record button's kind of broken on it. But it's recording now from the DVD player that's situated right there. There's the picture it's recording. See, that's kind of cool. You can see the red laser shining through the disc. Right at eye level too, zapping my eyes while I'm at it. I'm not too worried, okay? The laser radiation is not making it through the disc. And even if it was, the laser, and everyone that expresses concern about your eyes and the laser, the thing is, the laser itself is focused on the actual surface of the disc. And the laser will spread out because it does have a lens to focus it. The objective lens that moves up and down to focus the beam on the surface of the disc. As the lens moves up and down, the focal point changes because that's the way it is. As the beam leaves the lens, it diverges, spreads out like a flashlight. So when you're a distance away from it, it's not harmful. Now, if you were to use optical instruments to look at the actual spot itself, then yeah, that's very harmful. You'd be stupid to do that. But observing it from a distance is not harmful. You'd have to get your eye right down to the same focal plane that the lens is focused on. If you were to get close to it, then yes. If you were putting your eye only a couple of inches away, it probably wouldn't be a smart thing to do. Although this being a visible spectrum laser, your natural reaction will be to blink. Just like if you look at a bright flashlight, an LED flashlight can damage your eyes, right? That's why the natural reaction is to, if someone shines a flashlight in your eyes, like one of these bright buggers here, someone shines one of those in your face, the natural reaction is to look away because it's bright. Where it becomes more problematic is in the ultraviolet and the infrared spectrum, because the eye can't see it, because there's no visible light. There's no reaction to look away from it, which you would if you were to look at something extremely bright. Like if someone pointed a red laser, like a laser pointer in your eyes, which has more power incidentally than a laser in a DVD player. A burning laser is different. One used for burning discs, yes, that is very powerful, but a reading laser is relatively weak. And again, it's only focused on the actual disc surface. Where people take lasers, they take burning lasers from DVD recorders, for example. They take the objective lens away, and then you're just looking at the beam itself, and it can be pretty powerful, and they can pop balloons and stuff with it. And yeah, that's you would not want to get a reflection from that in your eyes. That would cause instant retinal damage. But a playback laser like this, especially when it's going through the actual disc itself, is not going to be harmful in any way. It's pretty dim. Anyway, this has been recording now for a few minutes. We'll play this recording back and see how this is. I'm sure this machine's working fine. Go back into playback. Why did the machine shut off? The VCR shut down. What's going on? Is there something else wrong with it now? Like it shut right down. I hit stop and it shut off. Okay, now what's wrong? Well, that was strange. It just shut down. And I just had to turn it back on again, but that was unexpected. I'm just rewinding the tape in search mode right now. And as you can see, it's recorded. So I'll go back into playback. There you go. It's playing back. That interference you see if I bring my hand near the head. Kick it into normal mode. Those lines you see at the bottom, that's just plasma interference, because these plasma sets, especially these old ones, tend to throw out a fair bit of electrical noise that gets picked up by the sensitive electronics. So I guess this one's fixed. Why it shut down like that, I don't know. But all I had to do was turn it back on, and it came back on. So stop. And eject. Rewind. This machine does a half unload for rewind. Back into play. I'm just holding it up. Maybe it was
cash on the things you really want. Like, whose hot tub is this?
Commercials. I'm just holding it up off the bench because it might have been sitting on the bench here and it dragged on something, like the parts turning on the bottom. That might have been why it shut down, because it just, when it was unthreading, it may have been resting on, the motors may have been resting on the silicon, because it's got the ridges on it here, right? So maybe it stopped something from turning, and that's why it shut down. But it appears to be functional now, so I'm going to throw it together. See you in part 2.